Front panel design. This is the front panel from my Waft gesture controller that I made a few years ago, and this uses a 2mm FR4, so the standard PCB material, black solder mask, and then the copper layer. I've put all the graphics onto the copper layer and then gold plated it, Enig plated it, and I think that works out quite smart. So I'm thinking I'm going to use the same sort of technique again. This has got I don't know whether you can see it, but it's got a slight surface finish to it. So I might try using the 1.6mm aluminium rather than the 2mm FR4. But in general, this I think turned out quite nicely. In those days, using KiCad, it was necessary to use particular fonts and what have you. You had to import them as footprints, but KiCad has moved on a long way since then, and you can now choose any fonts you like and put them straight onto the copper and solder mask layers, so it makes things a lot easier. In case you're interested, this is a gesture-based controller, Arduino, based around a VL6180 time of flight controller. So it fires out a little laser patterns, and then it can measure distances very accurately up to a distance of about 20 centimeters or so, and it generates either continuous or quantized CV and gate signals based on gesture, so much more accurately than say I don't know, an ultrasonic or optical distance measurer. So it's a very accurate little module and quite playable, gesture based. On GitHub, go look. I know exactly where all my user interface elements are as offsets from the top right hand corner of my PCB. Now the PCB is offset from the panel by a certain amount, or 1mm in the X direction and 9.25mm in the Y direction. So given these, I can therefore calculate the exact positions of all the user interface elements relative to the top right hand corner of a board, including things like mounting holes, that kind of thing. And I've also added into here the diameter of all of the holes. So this is really my menu, my recipe for creating the front panel elements. So in KiCad, my calculations give me the exact coordinates of the top left hand corner of the panel and the bottom right hand corner of the panel. So I can simply, on the edge cuts layer, draw a rectangle from X29, Y 20.75 down to X 89.6, Y 149.25, and I know that's going to be exactly the outline that I need. We need to talk about knobs. I've got a few, and originally I was intending to use, where are they, these, because I quite like them. They've got a nice clean line, but the problem is that if I put some of these around, it doesn't leave me much space for getting your fingers in, for one, and for getting lettering round the various knobs. So I'm thinking that I should really go for, where are they? There, the Davies 1900H, which is a very standard, readily available, get them from Thonk, get them anywhere, knob, and I haven't got enough, but they leave a lot more space round the controls to actually get some lettering in, and they also, I find they will accommodate both 6mm and 6.3mm shafts and D shafts, so they're quite a good general purpose knob. I mean, it's a shame I couldn't use the Moog style knobs, because I really like those, but for practicality, Davies 1900H it's going to be. So these Davies knobs, the base of them is what, about what's that, 12.7, 12.6 mil, and what I'm thinking is that it would look rather nice if they had just a little bit of the gold poking out from underneath them. So I want to create a gold pad that's slightly wider than the base of the knob, and then a hole through the middle for the shaft. So I'm going to create a pad with a hole in the middle, and I want my pad diameter to be 13 mil, so it just pokes out of the bottom of the Davies knob. And I want the first one I'm going to do is going to have a 7.5 mil hole in the middle. So in KiCad, very straightforward, we can just do it in the footprint editor. I'm going to give it a name, let's call it Parrot, non-plated through hole 13 by 7.5, and then we just place a pad, any old pad, and edit. I can select it, edit its properties, and it's going to be a non-plated through hole mechanical. It's going to have a diameter of 13 millimeters, and it's going to have a circular hole with a diameter of 7.5 millimeters, and I want it just on the front mask layer, and I want it on the front, on just the front copper layer. So it looks like that, pad with the hole in the middle. And then if I view that in the 3D viewer, that's going to look something like that. So hopefully there'll be a little bit of gold poking out round the edge of the knob. It's a hole goes through the substrate, and my pad relief is going to be gold plated. So I've gone ahead and created all my other pad types, various different diameters and various different hole sizes, and I've placed them all according to my calculated positions. So if I look at the 3D viewer, it's starting to come together. I've got all the user interface elements, some oval mounting holes, that kind of thing, all nicely positioned. So now it's time to put on some lettering. As I mentioned, text editing and placement within KiCad has come on in leaps and bounds in over the recent versions, and you can now choose from any installed font. So I can write, for example, my logo. I'd use the Monotype Corsiva font, and if I set a size, and I can choose that to be on the top copper layer. Oh, that's a bit big. Let's edit that. Drop that down to say 5. Okay, and I can M for move that around, and in order for this to come out in gold, I've put this on the front copper layer, but I also need it on the solder mask, and to put it onto the front solder mask, very straightforward. Again, you select it, Control D creates a duplicate, E edits it, put that on the front solder mask. It's moving around, so you just zoom in, locate it exactly, and it will locate absolutely exactly. And I've now got exactly the same text on both the front copper and the front solder mask. So if I view this in the 3D viewer, there it is, nice gold lettering on the front of my my panel. I've gone ahead and annotated all of the other user interface elements. I've got my logo down here in the monotype Corsiva font, and for the rest I've just used the default KiCad font because it's quite a nice clear font and it stands out quite well. But then for the module name of Camberwell Parrot, I purchased a font called Deadman, and that has been designed to mimic the writing of the artist, the great Ralph Steadman. I'm a huge fan of Ralph Steadman, and in order to get this to flow, I've done nothing clever whatsoever. All I've done is written some of the letters separately, and then individually I can set them to a particular orientation. So this is 20 degrees. If I change it to 90 degrees, looks like that. So I've just jiggled around the positions so that they look nice. And what remains now, the only complex bit, is I need to put some kind of annotation around my 8-way switches. But design-wise, it's starting to come together, I think. The 8-way switches I'm using have clicks every 30 degrees, so I want to put marks every 30 degrees around this circle, and I can do that with the line tool. I can draw a line, any old line, and then if I select it and edit its properties, I can set it to a particular length. So I'm going to set it to 7mm, so it sticks out by 1mm from the edge of the existing pad, and 180 degrees and 1mm diameter. So I've got a little blip there, and then if I duplicate that, Control D, edit the duplicate and set that at 150 degrees, I've got another line that I can snap into place, and so on round the circle. And in the tradition of UK children's television, here's one I prepared earlier, and I've put all of the lines at 30-degree intervals, and I've also duplicated them onto the front solder mask. So now if I look at my board in the 3D viewer, I've got a nice series of blips round the edge of that pad. These are my clock divisions and multiplications, so I want to write those round the outside, and just as a guide I'm just going to draw a circle in there, which I can delete afterwards, but it just means I can line up my numbers round the outside, and then I can simply write those in as text. Front copper, and if I zoom in and put them so they're just next to that line, I'll go all the way round adding those. Then when I'm done, I can simply delete my guide circle and see what that looks like. And yeah, I think that's quite functional and business-like. This left-hand switch is my algorithm selection switch, but I haven't actually defined what all the algorithms are going to be, apart from that there will be 8 of them, and so I've just labelled them A to H for the time being. It's as easy as anything, and I do believe I'm just about ready to order these. I need to print it out and check everything looks correct, but yeah, that looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to order up some of these. As with the PCBs, the ordering process is extremely simple. Just click on File, Fabrication Outputs, Gerbers, make sure that we've only included the necessary layers, which in this instance just front copper, front solder mask and the edge cuts. Plot those and plot the drill files using the defaults. It has generated a plated through hole drill file, and we haven't got any plated through holes, but I will include it just for completeness. So close those, zip them up, then over to our friendly PCB fabricator. Other fabricators are available. Add the Gerbers. So this is my zip that I just made. Upload those and then check the details. So single pieces, it's worked out the size. I'm going to order 5. It's single layer and I want aluminium. I'm going to stick with 1.6mm aluminium. 2mm a bit more expensive, but I think 1.6 is going to be rigid enough for these purposes. I want my solder mask to be black. White silkscreen, well there's no silkscreen, so select none. No edge connector. Immersion gold Enig plating. Hard gold would double the price. Finished copper, 1 ounce copper will be fine, and I want to remove the product number, and so just calculate that again. So that's $67. So what's that? Probably about 50 of our UK pounds, so about £10 each. So they're fairly expensive, but it's the gold that's done that. If it was just ordinary tinned copper, then it's half the price. But I want gold, and I want gold on black, so I'm going to pay the price, and I will order 5 of those. So I've got the front panels back. These I ordered these on the what was it, the 6th, and it's now the 16th, so these took a little bit longer than the PCBs to get back, but that's mainly my fault, because there were some engineering questions. They wanted to know about tolerances on some of the holes, that kind of thing, and I didn't get back to them with the answers as rapidly as I might have done, so that did take a little longer than the first PCBs, but let's see what we've got, which is quite exciting. So these are Enig plated black solder mask, 1.6mm aluminium, and I can't get them out of the packet because they're so well packaged. There we go. In finally. So see what we've got. Just zoom in for a slightly better look. The finish, I went for a glossy black solder mask, but the finish, there's no kind of surface detail or anything. That's quite good, and I think the gold lettering stands out quite nicely against that. So yeah, so far quite pleased with what we've got.